In a small conference room in Raleigh, North Carolina, both strangers and spouses who weren't sharing notes coming together to talk politics and where they're leaning this cycle. 6 voters, all but one, at one time backing Nikki Haley.
North Carolina in 2020 went for Donald Trump by just 1.3% of the vote. It's considered a toss-up, a purple state for all intents and purposes. Did go for Obama in 2008. Most of you right now, can you tell us how you are leaning politically?
I voted for Trump the past 2 elections. I don't want to vote for him again. I am undecided. I really have no idea. I actually might even lean into the camp of don't actually show up on election day.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's sad that we've got 2 choices. Looks like that we're going to have. Who knows what'll happen with the conventions this summer. I'm probably leaning, towards Republican, but we've got someone who's a little bit off the rocker, if you will.
I think everybody should get out and vote, but also not voting is a vote. I think we're voting for these 2 guys that are in the race at the moment, that seem to be in the race at the moment. I think we're voting for whoever is the VP candidate.
I'm probably going to vote for Biden in this next election, only because as a young person, character means a lot to me.
I believe in voting. I have to make a choice as an American. And I don't like the choice of not voting. To me, I'm trying to think what is best for this country. Probably going to be voting Republican because I believe the policies are going to help America better than open borders, etc.
I will vote for Biden. I believe he has the experience. I do not believe Trump. He was a businessman. He didn't seem to me to be the best businessman with his businesses. They seem to be failing. And how can you run a country if you can't run your businesses? Trump is not what my idea of America is, how I was raised from a little girl.
In a presidential election as close as this one, it's no question the undecided or perhaps unconvinced voter, like them, likely the key into the Oval Office. As the 2 candidates remain neck and neck in most polls, North Carolina is a state with more registered independent voters than either Republican or Democrat. So what are they looking for in 2024? Well, policies, leadership, and more than anything else, unity.
I'm looking for truth.
We're not all that different. We're really not. I mean, there's labels out there and there's polarization out there, but on the issues that matter, me leaning libertarian, it's really about let's just all come together, let's get along, let's stop the divisiveness.
Because if we can't function together as a country, we can't tackle things like the economy or border security or national security. Personally, I think we as a country lean too much on our government to fix everything.
But finding that unity perhaps a bit more difficult when the candidates couldn't be further apart.
If you had to pick one then, what one policy matters the most? What one issue matters the most?
The economy, the topic that continues to lead in poll after poll. It was the biggest one for this group too.
The debt that's out there now for our grandkids to figure out how to pay is almost becoming insurmountable.
I think the debt's a serious problem. I don't know how you can say you're tackling inflation and yet flooding the economy with money.
When I think of economy, the most important thing is federal spending. That is killing the economy. And that's the conundrum. Under Trump, the economies did pretty well. But as Nikki pointed out, under Trump, he increased the deficit by $8 trillion. So there's a conundrum there. But
I think that big businesses should not get all those tax breaks. I think the middle class, working class, should get a break.
But interestingly, one they seem to want to spend the least amount of time discussing. Instead, things like January 6th leading the conversation.
I don't consider it an insurrection.
No.
No. Everybody talks about an insurrection. To me, closer to an insurrection would be the rioting that took place out in Midwest somewhere where they actually, with guns, took over blocks of a city, kept that for weeks. That is an insurrection. Anybody who broke windows, broke into, then yes, they should be indicted and taken to court. 10 years in prison? I don't think so.
Washington, D.C., the Capitol, that is a symbol of America, democracy. And when I saw on TV the people on the buildings with guns and total disregard and chaos, I mean, you can't imagine how I felt in my heart. It was almost like when 9/11 occurred. It was like 10 times worse. I would never imagine that the people of America, Republican, Democrat, whatever, would ever attack the symbol of our democracy, uncalled for. That was most definitely an insurrection.
And when I think about my feelings that day, I was sick in my stomach watching it. But I think what I disliked the most about it was how Trump handled it. And waiting. And, you know, he could have completely changed my opinion of himself that day. But that day is probably the reason that I'm not interested in voting for Trump this year.
And the politics of personality seemingly factoring into their decision come November. Lawsuits, convictions, former President Trump's 34 felonies had the group decidedly split.
A felon should not be president of the United States. You cannot get a job out here in the real world, most of them, as a felon. It's very difficult. How can a felon be head of the armed forces? You cannot be a felon to join the armed forces.
I would agree that a felon should not be president. A convicted felon should not be president. And when you think about the irony of it, he can't even vote for himself. He's not able to vote in the state of Florida as a convicted felon.
I personally totally dismiss the conviction.
To all of them.
I think it is
There's
political
three separate cases.
prosecution.
Okay.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
Starting before he became president, political prosecution. 2 impeachments, political prosecution. This one, they went back 8 years for a misdemeanor that is beyond statute of limitations. So I just dismiss it. I've lost trust in all of our institutions.
I want to dive into that, though, because Hunter Biden, the president's son, was also convicted by this same Justice Department by a jury, just like Trump was. So how do you balance those 2 convictions, both parties?
Hunter was convicted, but in my mind, only because a judge many months ago refused to accept some deal.
I think it's important to separate President Biden from his son Hunter Biden.
Because?
Because he's not Hunter Biden.
Hunter's not a child.
Okay.
No,
So you agree then that?
Well, I mean, you know, I'm not going to say what he did was. I agree with Malik. It's not Biden that did it. Biden has his other things.
On abortion, an issue Gallup found is increasing voter turnout for single-issue voters, not a motivator for this group.
I think a woman should have the right.
I think it's where it belongs in the state.
But one that was immigration.
I'm concerned that we're setting ourselves up a lot with the immigration system today, that I'm feeling less and less secure as in my own home, in my own neighborhoods, and I'm concerned for my children and my grandchildren.
America was founded on immigrants, so we've got to love the immigration system, but it's got to be fair, and you got to do it legally.
Because we talked about immigration quite a bit. Biden's recent executive order, does anybody care, or did that play into anyone's considerations, or did it even?
It's election year.
Too little, too late.
Too little, too late.
But I also think the economy is big, as well as immigration. But what was interesting is what Eddie mentioned about health care. Like, why isn't that a big issue?
You want to fix the health care system? Put everybody in Congress on
Yes.
health care?
Yes.
Yeah.
Instead of their own little private entitled
well-
program?
You work in healthcare.
I do. I work in home health care. So a big challenge where we're individually working with people in their homes, cutting down the cost of nursing homes, because these people would otherwise be in a nursing home. We're taking care of them in their home. Our employees get paid much less for doing one-on-one care.
So with their votes uncommitted, what are they looking for at next week's debate?
What I would like to hear is policy discussions, and I'm really looking forward to the debate where they're going to have to answer to the American people what their policies are going to be, and try and get them to stop campaigning against character and against each other.
And even if their politics didn't align, one thing that perhaps gives us a little optimism in a divided country, everyone would like to see that division end.
And I think the unaffiliated is a testament that people want change, and they want bipartisanship. Looking for.
I think the two-party system's a problem, and people are starting to realize I don't want to be in either one of them.
I also started to become embarrassed to even label myself a Republican because of the far right side of the Republican Party. And so that's why I'm going independent.
It's that being in the middle now means independent of either party, even if one of those candidates will likely get their vote this year. Serena Marshall, Scripps News, Raleigh, North Carolina.